So welcome Steve, welcome Gregory, and we're gonna be doing a very short savers using the application. So let me go back to us. Right, so that's that, and go share the whole thing. I found in the Miracle Morning app one very short savers. So we have clear fog, quiet mind, and set a focused tone for the day with this quick clarity centered practice so that in less than 5 minutes you can do a savers, silence, affirmations, visualizations, exercise, reading, scribing, and just like that. So let's check that out and let's go.
Take a comfortable seat. Let your spine lengthen and your breath soften. Let this be your reset, a moment to clear the noise and return to what matters. Close your eyes and soften your gaze. Let your breath move like a gentle breeze through you. Steady, quiet, present. With each inhale, imagine space opening in your mind. And with each exhale, release the fog of distraction. Stay with your breath in and out, still and clear. Repeat aloud or in your heart, I see clearly. I trust my inner wisdom. I focus on what matters most. Feel the truth of these words sharpen your awareness. Now picture your day like a clear blue sky. Tasks and thoughts are clouds, and they're passing. Focus your mind on one thing that truly matters today. See yourself moving through it with calm, clarity, and ease. Roll your shoulders slowly back and down. Sit up tall. Gently twist your spine side to side. Inhale, arms rise overhead. Exhale, lower them. Let movement clear the mind. Clarity comes when the mind quiets and the heart speaks. Let that sink in. Ask yourself, what one thing do I need to focus on today? Say it, write it. That is your intention. May you move through your day with renewed clarity.
All right, so a saver could be 3 minutes, and so very simple. And she gave very simple exercise, moving just your shoulders while you can go and move and meditate. So all the savings has been complete, and it's 5 or 6. All right, so we're gonna focus now on wellness. So this is number 4, 6 6. And the questions of today is going to be, what is one thing that you need to focus today? Very simple one. What is one thing, and you're gonna write it, and we're gonna take 3 minutes to write that one thing. What is one thing you wanna focus, that you need to focus today? And we're gonna write about that. So let me go and write it. So what is one thing you need to focus today? All right, time's up. Time's up. Time's up. Time's up. What is the one thing you need to focus today? And let's go to that thing. So I need to focus today myself in my last primary care doctor visit with Dr. Janes, my primary care doctor I found in Kissimmee. Good one. Good one. I don't know if it's Dominican, Cuban, Colombian, or Venezuelan. But I need to go to my last doctor's appointment with my primary care doc, PCD in Kissimmee, Dr. Yanis. I need to know my lab results and go back to you're sure that I am going in good conditions to walk the different streets, places, and museums of Europe, especially Berlin, and in Germany to visit the museums of Rhodes in Vienna and so forth. Probably to visit the red streets on Amsterdam, where you've seen those beautiful women being shown on glasses. Don't tell that to my wife.
There is some. There is some.
The rest of in Amsterdam, because in Amsterdam I'm going to see the Anna Frank Museum, supposedly. So the basic museum of Anna Frank, where she, exactly the place where she written the diary of Anna Frank and everything is in Amsterdam. So that's my excuse. But I want to pass by and see the red zone.
Just quickly.
Quickly, bam! And I'm sure she's gonna let me go alone to no place.
It's Cologne. It's Cologne. Don't worry.
Okay.
Well, it's been 25 years, but I'm just going to tell you right now, it's overrated.
Oh, really? All right. So let's go. Welcome everybody. Lawrence is here. Marta, Rosaura, Steve. Oh, Marta, Martita, and Victor and Gregory. So, what
Yeah.
is the one thing you need to focus today, Lawrence?
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Loud and clear. Take it away.
All right, cool. Let's see. I wrote down coming up with a workout schedule. So, what I did is I got my bike fixed up. So I got that completed. So I'm going to go for a bike ride. And I'm going to come up with a better kettlebell training program. So I'm going to work out. I'm going to go for Tuesdays and Thursdays. So I'm going to do some more since I'm actually taking some time off a little bit now. Um, so I'm going to go today and go for a bike ride, um, and get that going. So I got some weight I got to lose.
Excellent. All right. So exercise is key. Exercise, you have to know that exercise is 5% of any regime that you have for losing weight. So I spent, when I created the club of running, I spent a whole year trying to lose weight. At that time, I think I had probably 30 pounds. I don't know if you have seen that photo with me, like 30 pounds over. My friend Ramon Blandino was sick, which like 20 medications, things like that. And then at the end of the year, we ran probably the major races in New York Road Runner, and we gained all the pounds. And we didn't know what's going on, what's happening, because I'm running. I'm really running. I created a club. So the only thing that changed completely was the fasting, the diet, the losing the calories. It's the um, time restricted eating, as time T restricted R eating, which is I lost the breakfast for sure. Never ever. As you know, when I was medical student, I you cannot eat breakfast. It's impossible to eat breakfast. I mean, like you have to wake up at 7, be 6 to be at 7 if you're close to university. And so lost the breakfast. I don't eat breakfast, so less food in my body. And then usually 16 hours I get my first meal. Well, meal, which is probably at 2, around 2, 1, 2, 3. And I lost myself into work doing my stuff so that I can do it at 3, 4. And 8 hours later, which is 2, probably 8, 9, doesn't matter. some kind of dinner, whatever it is. Okay, that's regularly Monday to Sunday, the whole year. But I never miss an opportunity of having a good feast food at any moment, dinner, any moment. I just eat. I go to party, whatever. I just eat. I went yesterday to the Clearwater Beach. It was a beautiful restaurant close to the water. So I got the best plates, and because I do 5 days of fastings every year, twice a year, my I always the plate it have. I have something to deliver because it's set completely. So you have that's that. If you are most likely, if it's 30 pound, most likely that you have to lose 30, 40 pounds. It's okay. 50 maybe you do your fasting, things like that. If not, uh, you have to go gym constantly. Go to the doctor to see whatever is right there. Uh, Nowadays, the GLP-1 medication injections weekly or monthly, it's what most of the cardiologists, endocrinologists, doctors are using. So most of us, if you are above 40, 50 and is prescribed by a doctor or haven't been prescribed, ask for it because it's like the new Viagra for people. Like if you have dysfunctional erection, something that we couldn't find the cure. Now we have the GLP-1, the Ozempic kind of medication that is right there. And the New York Times had the piece on doctors are using GLP-1 for difficult um, gain of weight that is related to many kind of diseases. Um, so that's kind of, oh my God, if that exists right there, that's really important. And why GLP-1? Because the GLP-1s go into the glucagon hormone that is elusive. All the hormone, especially insulin, that are related to gaining weight and getting fat, its control is known. Fasting, you reduce completely insulin, and that's why you set your weight. But glucagon is the only hormone in your body that act on being satiated, like being full, because we eat because we don't know when the body is full. So going specifically is like glucagon like one, glucagon peptide one hormone, you cannot eat because the moment you have the injections go to that go hormone and you feel full. You feel full, So one of my guy last week, he was like, "Oh, I don't know. My wife is using it. I don't gonna use it because I'm gonna get blind. It's whatever the side effect." Well, the side effect is that if you have diabetes, you have a lot of conditions, you're gonna die 30 years because that's what it means. If you're really obese or morbid obese, you are like 30 up to your body mass index. Statistically, people die 30 years faster. So if you control obesity, if it's too much, you like gains 30 years of your life. So instead of dying at 65 or at 70, you can die at 90, things like that, or more. And there is a guy who say we need to be in good shape in 5 10 years because the new medications is right there. It's a lot of million to oh wow, I can go fit. One of those is the glucagon like kind of medication. 95% on exercise, the rest it's fasting, which is reduced calorie, have 8 hours between meals, nothing in between, a lot of water, and that will allow you to. And then the Jason Fund, the fasting manual is important. The diet longevity of Dr. Longer, behind a lot of research. Now he has the book Cancer Fasting behind, and he proposed 3 times a year the 5 days fasting. It was supposed it's two now. He said no, you just do three. so that it can reset by yourself normally the glucagon kind of, because when you do fasting, well, 3 days, within the 3 days you don't want to eat. I mean, like, that's it. I mean, like, it's set into the glucagon, like insulin go down, and when insulin go down, normally glucagon zoop increase, and then you are satiated, you're full. The sense, the psychological and biological sense of fullness, which is biological and it's psychological. It's biological, but that's the only way the body knows I'm full, is that when glucagon goes up. So that's the greatest discovery of intensive fasting. But just like that's a master class on fasting, on working on your body. All right, so let's go to what is one thing you need to focus today, Marta, and then Rosaura.
Yeah. Good morning.
Morning.
Buenos dias.
My buenos dias. I in this week I had 2 days, and today, and it's not finished today, but I had 2 days focus really in the thing that I has to fix in my house. Throw away the old clothes, the paper, and I continue little by little, like Victor tell me, and it's it really a lot of work, and sometimes I am not too. I sometimes I feel tired. But it's no. I don't make the excuse. I has to drink something to wake up and continue. And really, I am serious in that because this bother me. When you something bother you, you have to take the action. The action. I I really very good. Um, Tuesday and Wednesday, and today I become much better. I am happy with myself. I don't go to hanging out. Yesterday, my friend invited me to the beach in New Jersey, some new place. I thinking about it. I say, "Oh my God, a new place! Oh my God!" Eh, but I say, I Malta, the reasonable, the thinking, and working in herself, say, no way, Malta. No, go to the beach another day. And I stay here. This is the I celebrated. I celebrated because I am not easy. When something happened, I want to go. No, but yesterday I stay here. I had a lot of things to do. I made a fish soup, and this helped me to really do the work with energy and and and, and put my hands in action. Thank you.
Excellent. All right. So yeah, fun, but work. All right. So let's go to Rosaura. Rosaura, what's the one thing you need to focus today?
Yeah, okay. Good morning, everyone. Today, I think I need to focus on my to-do list in completing any lingering tasks that I didn't complete during the summer and trying to adjust it and modify it and see how I'm going to prepare my to-do list now for beginning September.
Excellent. Good. All right. So let's go to Steve.
Hey, good morning. I wrote that today I need to focus on being alert and aware of my surroundings. I have a 7.5 hour drive ahead of me.
Oh, wow. Where you going?
Blue Ridge, Georgia.
Oh, good. It's fun. Sounds like fun. All right. So, Victor Catano, what is one thing you need to focus today?
Morning, everyone. I
Good
need to
morning.
I need to focus on personal income development. I have a I have to generate new applications today, and I also have two seeds that I planted a few weeks ago that I need to water and nourish today so that they can be fruitful within the next few weeks.
All right. Good. Good, 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 good. Priority first. Let's go to Gregory. What is one thing you need to focus today?
Good morning. Today I need to focus on completing the pending reports for my client, and getting these finished will help me close the month strong and show my clients that I'm reliable and consistent. And this will allow me, um, by making this my top priority, I'll clear space for new opportunities for September. Thank you.
Excellent. Perfect. So we're gonna go to the laws of avoid stepping into a gray man's shoes, and the laws has judgment, transgression of the law, interpretations, and observance of the law. So we're gonna go to transgression and observance with each interpretation of each of them. Then we're gonna leave key to power for next time, and the reversal. So it's typical, just transgressions and observance, and the judgment of the law. So let's go there. And we are on law 41 and close to law 48 of power. So let's do it. And that's another one. Here we have it.
Schemes they fancied would fleece others. They wanted money for its own sake. I wanted it for the luxuries and pleasures it would afford me. They were seldom concerned with human nature. They knew little and cared less about their fellow men. If they had been keener students of human nature, if they had given more time to companionship with their fellows and less to the chase of the almighty dollar, they wouldn't have been such easy marks. The 41st Law. Avoid stepping into a great man's shoes. Judgment. What happens first always appears better and more original than what comes after. If you succeed a great man or have a famous parent, you will have to accomplish double their achievements to outshine them. Do not get lost in their shadow or stuck in a past not of your own making. Establish your own name and identity by changing course. Slay the overbearing father, disparage his legacy, and gain power by shining in your own way. Transgression of the law. When Louis XIV died in 1715, after a glorious 55-year reign, all eyes focused on his great-grandson and chosen successor, the future Louis XV. Would the boy, only 5 at the time, prove as great a leader as the Sun King? Louis XIV had transformed a country on the verge of civil war into the preeminent power in Europe. The last years of his reign had been difficult. He had been old and tired. But it was hoped that the child would develop into the kind of strong ruler who would reinvigorate the land and add to the firm foundation that Louis XIV had laid. To this end, the child was given the best minds of France as his tutors, men who would instruct him in the arts of statecraft, in the methods that the Sun King had perfected. Nothing was neglected in his education. But when Louis XV came to the throne in 1726, a sudden change came over him. He no longer had to study or please others or prove himself. He stood alone at the top of a great country, with wealth and power at his command. He could do as he wished. In the first years of his reign, Louis gave himself over to pleasure, leaving the government in the hands of a trusted minister, André Hercule de Fleury. This caused little concern, for he was a young man who needed to sow his wild oats, and de Fleury was a good minister. But it slowly became clear that this was more than a passing phase. Louis had no interest in governing. His main worry was not France's finances or a possible war with Spain, but boredom. He couldn't stand being bored. And when he was not hunting deer or chasing young girls, he whiled away his time at the gambling tables, losing huge sums in a single night. The court, as usual, reflected the tastes of the ruler. Gambling and lavish parties became the obsession. The courtiers had no concern with the future of France. They poured their energies into charming the king, angling for titles that would bring them life pensions, and for cabinet positions demanding little work but paying huge salaries. Parasites flocked to the court, and the state's debts swelled. In 1745, Louis fell in love with Madame de Pompadour, a woman of middle-class origin who had managed to rise through her charms, her intelligence, and a good marriage. Madame de Pompadour became the official royal mistress. She also became France's arbiter of taste and fashion. But the Madame had political ambitions as well, and she eventually emerged as the country's unofficial prime minister. It was she, not Louis, who wielded hiring and firing power over France's most important ministers. As he grew older, Louis only needed more diversion. On the grounds of Versailles, he built a brothel, Parc Corsaire, which housed some of the prettiest young girls of France. Underground passages and hidden staircases gave Louis access at all hours. After Madame de Pompadour died in 1764, she was succeeded as royal mistress by Madame du Barry, who soon came to dominate the court, and who, like de Pompadour before her, began to meddle in affairs of state. If a minister did not please her, he would find himself fired. All of Europe was aghast when du Barry, the daughter of a baker, managed to arrange the firing of Etienne de Choiseul, the foreign minister and France's most able diplomat. He had shown her too little respect. As time went by, swindlers and charlatans made their nests in Versailles, and enticed Louis's interest in astrology, the occult, and fraudulent business deals. The young and pampered teenager who had taken over France years before had only grown worse with age. The motto that became attached to Louis's reign was, "Après moi, le déluge." After me, the flood. Or, let France rot after I'm gone. And indeed, when Louis did go in 1774, worn out by debauchery, his country and his own finances were in horrible disarray. His grandson Louis XVI inherited a realm in desperate need of reform and a strong leader. But Louis XVI was even weaker than his grandfather, and could only watch as the country descended into revolution. In 1792, the republic introduced by the French Revolution declared the end of the monarchy, and gave the king a new name, Louis the Last. A few months later, he kneeled on the guillotine, his about-to-be severed head stripped of all the radiance and power that the Sun King had invested in the crown. Interpretation. From a country that had descended into civil war in the late 1640s, Louis XIV forged the mightiest realm in Europe. Great generals would tremble in his presence. A cook once made a mistake in preparing a dish and committed suicide rather than face the king's wrath. Louis XIV had many mistresses, but their power ended in the bedroom. He filled his court with the most brilliant minds of the age. The symbol of his power was Versailles. Refusing to accept the palace of his forefathers, the Louvre, he built his own palace in what was then the middle of nowhere, symbolizing that this was a new order he had founded, one without precedent. He made Versailles the centerpiece of his reign, a place that all the powerful of Europe envied and visited with a sense of awe. In essence, Louis took a great void, the decaying monarchy of France, and filled it with his own symbols and radiant power. Louis XV, on the other hand, symbolizes the fate of all those who inherit something large or who follow in a great man's footsteps. It would seem easy for a son or successor to build on the grand foundation left for them. But in the realm of power, the opposite is true. The pampered and dull son almost always squanders the inheritance, for he doesn't start with the father's need to fill a void. As Machiavelli states, necessity is what impels men to take action. And once the necessity is gone, only rot and decay are left. Having no need to increase his store of power, Louis XV inevitably succumbed to inertia. Under him, Versailles, the symbol of the Sun King's authority, became a pleasure palace of incomparable banality, a kind of Las Vegas of the Bourbon monarchy. It came to represent all that the oppressed peasantry of France hated about their king, and during the Revolution they looted it with glee. Louis XV had only one way out of the trap awaiting the son or successor of a man like the Sun King: to psychologically begin from nothing, to denigrate the past and his inheritance, and to move in a totally new direction, creating his own world. Assuming you have the choice, it would be better to avoid the situation altogether, to place yourself where there is a vacuum of power, where you can be the one to bring order out of chaos without having to compete with another star in the sky. Power depends on appearing larger than other people, and when you are lost in the shadow of the father, the king, the great predecessor, you cannot possibly project such a presence. As Machiavelli said, but when they began to make sovereignty hereditary, the children quickly degenerated from their fathers, and, so far from trying to equal their father's virtues, they considered that a prince had nothing else to do than to excel all the rest in idleness, indulgence, and every other variety of pleasure. Observance of the law. Alexander the Great had a dominant passion as a young man, an intense dislike for his father, King Philip of Macedonia. He hated Philip's cunning, cautious style of ruling, his bombastic speeches, his drinking and whoring, and his love of wrestling and other wastes of time. Alexander knew he had to make himself the very opposite of his domineering father. He would force himself to be bold and reckless. He would control his tongue and be a man of few words, and he would not lose precious time in pursuit of pleasures that brought no glory. Alexander also resented the fact that Philip had conquered most of Greece. "My father will go on conquering till there is nothing extraordinary left for me to do," he once complained. While other sons of powerful men were content to inherit wealth and live a life of leisure, Alexander wanted only to outdo his father, to obliterate Philip's name from history by surpassing his accomplishments. Alexander itched to show others how superior he was to his father. A Thessalian horse dealer once brought a prize horse named Bucephalus to sell to Philip. None of the king's grooms could get near the horse. It was far too savage, and Philip berated the merchant for bringing him such a useless beast. Watching the whole affair, Alexander scowled and commented, "What a horse they are losing for want of skill and spirit to manage him." When he had said this several times, Philip had finally had enough, and challenged him to take on the horse. He called the merchant back, secretly hoping his son would have a nasty fall and learn a bitter lesson. But Alexander was the one to teach the lesson. Not only did he mount Bucephalus, he managed to ride him at full gallop, taming the horse that would later carry him all the way to India. The courtiers applauded wildly, but Philip seethed inside, not seeing a son but a rival to his power. Alexander's defiance of his father grew bolder. One day the two men had a heated argument before the entire court, and Philip drew his sword as if to strike his son. Having drunk too much wine, however, the king stumbled. Alexander pointed at his father and jeered, "Men of Macedonia, see there the man who is preparing to pass from Europe to Asia. He cannot pass from one table to another without falling." When Alexander was 18, a disgruntled courtier murdered Philip. As word of the regicide spread through Greece, city after city rose up in rebellion against their Macedonian rulers. Philip's advisers counseled Alexander, now the king, to proceed cautiously, to do as Philip had done and conquer through cunning. But Alexander would do things his way. He marched to the furthest reaches of the kingdom, suppressed the rebellious towns, and reunited the empire with brutal efficiency. As a young rebel grows older, his struggle against his father often wanes, and he gradually comes to resemble the very man he had wanted to defy. But Alexander's loathing of his father did not end with Philip's death. Once he had consolidated Greece, he set his eyes on Persia, the prize that had eluded his father, who had dreamed of conquering Asia. If he defeated the Persians, Alexander would finally surpass Philip in glory and fame. Alexander crossed into Asia with an army of 35,000, to face a Persian force numbering over 1 million. Before engaging the Persians in battle, he passed through the town of Gordium. Here, in the town's main temple, there stood an ancient chariot tied with cords made of the rind of the cornel tree. Legend had it that any man who could undo these cords, the Gordian knot, would rule the world. Many had tried to untie the enormous and intricate knot, but none had succeeded. Alexander, seeing he couldn't possibly untie the knot with his bare hands, took out his sword and with one slash cut it in half. This symbolic gesture showed the world that he would not do as others, but would blaze his own path. Against astounding odds, Alexander conquered the Persians. Most expected him to stop there. It was a great triumph, enough to secure his fame for eternity. But Alexander had the same relationship to his own deeds as he had to his father. His conquest of Persia represented the past, and he wanted never to rest on past triumphs, or to allow the past to outshine the present. He moved on to India, extending his empire beyond all known limits. Only his disgruntled and weary soldiers prevented him from going farther. Interpretation. Alexander represents an extremely uncommon type in history. The son of a famous and successful man who manages to surpass the father in glory and power. The reason this type is uncommon is simple. The father most often manages to amass his fortune, his kingdom, because he begins with little or nothing. A desperate urge impels him to succeed. He has nothing to lose by cunning and impetuousness, and has no famous father of his own to compete against. This kind of man has reason to believe in himself, to believe that his way of doing things is the best, because after all, it worked for him. When a man like this has a son, he becomes domineering and oppressive, imposing his lessons on the son, who is starting off life in circumstances totally different from those in which the father himself began. Instead of allowing the son to go in a new direction, the father will try to put him in his own shoes, perhaps secretly wishing the boy will fail, as Philip half wanted to see Alexander thrown from Bucephalus. Fathers envy their sons' youth and vigor, after all, and their desire is to control and dominate. The sons of such men tend to become cowed and cautious, terrified of losing what their fathers have gained. The son will never step out of his father's shadow unless he adopts the ruthless strategy of Alexander. Disparage the past. Create your own kingdom. Put the father in the shadows instead of letting him do the same to you. If you cannot materially start from ground zero, it would be foolish to renounce an inheritance. You can at least begin from ground zero psychologically, by throwing off the weight of the past and charting a new direction. Alexander instinctively recognized that privileges of birth are impediments to power. Be merciless with the past, then, not only with your father and his father, but with your own earlier achievements. Only the weak rest on their laurels and dote on past triumphs. In the game of power, there is never time to rest.
Okay, let's stop right there.
Keys to
On Keys to Power. And 41, it's a boy stepping into a great man's shoes. So let's go there. Let's take the first 10 minutes. What do you think of this? Let's go there. Boom.
I'll go first. I know this story firsthand and very well. Um, my dream job was this job that was like 20 minutes from my house at the school called New Canaan Country School, and I took over for someone who had been the CFO there for 40 years.
We're streaming live, you know.
It's okay. I'm not saying anything negative or bad.
All right.
I'm speaking just truth. 40 years, this guy was there, and I knew him because obviously I go to the conferences. I sat at dinner with him many times. In fact, when Andres was born, the first year we went up there, we sat at dinner at the table with him, and I took over for this man, and my college roommate was also the head of school there, and he offered me the job. And when I got there, if I had $1 for every time somebody said the name John Ziak, I'd be so filthy rich. I'd be like, okay, I was hired to kind of like change things, right? Because for 40 years, nothing had been changed, nothing was broken, everything was perfect, the budget was always in surplus, and now, of course, he's not there, and the budget isn't in surplus, and I'm taking this over. And I just remember that, like, I'd be like, okay, no one has updated the employee handbook in 5 years. This needs to be updated, and I'm going to do this. And they're like, okay, great, yes, that needs to be done. And I'd be doing it, and I'd be like, oh, um, here's something that this is outdated. Oh, but when John Ziak was here, oh, but when John Ziak was here, um, oh, how is it like for 40 years we didn't have any budget challenges. Like, why are we having budget challenges now? When John Ziak was here, he always saw to it that we did this and that and that and that. And it was just like every single day. And I think my final moment of glory was one day some like the power cord blew out in my office, and so I asked for a new power strip, and and they were like, "Oh, I have one for you, but I'm gonna buy you a new one, but this should get you through the rest of the day." And when they bought it, it was a power strip, and his name was on the power cord. Oh my God. Anyway, very tough to do.
Great example there. But listening to the author in this one, he tells two very distinct stories. One of Louis the 14th and his successors. In that one, I see misjudgment. Um, Louis the 15th, who succeeded his grandfather Louis the 14th, he he felt unable to outshine him, and instead he fell into a life of pleasure, philandering, gambling, and allowing the kingdom to decline. On the other hand, you have you have Alexander, who had a willingness to differentiate, and so his willingness to differentiate allowed him to create his own identity, style, and symbols, and he didn't remain trapped in his father's shadow. He blazed his own trail. So two very distinct, um, two very distinct examples, of how this law can be perceived if is the transgression of this law involves either you're failing to establish your own distinct identity and path, resulting in the predecessor's shadow, or there's or overreaching and causing offense, and instead of direct succession, you know you could take the path of Alexander and create your own space, forge a new path, and potentially even, discredit the predecessor's legacy to establish a unique presence and gain power. So,
Yeah, Brother Stevie has me thinking of the Bible with the two sons, where the father gave them everything, and one did the right thing, and the other went and squandered it. And then when he was broke, realized he could come back home, and his father still received him. But the ability to use what you have and not waste it, and is powerful. So that is the story you bring to my attention now. So it's a story always told many times. So thanks for piquing my thought today.
yeah, great example, brother. Great example.
I I really I I got the respect and admiration to my father. I recognize in me a lot of things from him, good things and bad things. Like he showed, pick it out me, show me. Uh, um, I feeling I am a clean my ancestral, my family. Um, this I recognize now. No, in this part of my life. But it's not be like him, but he had a strong determination in his life. The the this inspired me to continue. I has to discover in me this part. Uh, but it's not be like him. But the good thing that I saw in him, I wanna be like him. Um, Nothing. Continue to growing in my way, in my life. Do it the best I can, and thank you.
All right. You know, the fathers of the greatest in my city, San Juan de la Maguana in the south. My brother-in-law, he is a politician, a natural politician, and he has a mechanic and a auto part shop, the main in San Juan. And because of that, he knows all the history, everybody. Because all the big guy, rich guy with the tractor, big bus, car, all goes through there, and he knows about every history, everything that's going on. And something that he used to do is, oh my God, these rich men. Someone was called the the uh, the grainer of the South, the grain city of the South. All the habichuelas, the beans, everything's about beans. What's to San Juan de la Maguana, and the rice and beans. And the major guy, 5 to 10 people, powerful, got all the land, and they were the richest guy in the South and probably in Dominican Republic because of that. They have power and fame, but they came with no educated. They don't have a lot of power. They need to talk. They know how to make money and how to live with people. And of course, these fathers send their kids to university to study law, be medical doctors, things like that. And one of them is Mario Melo, the one that I remember because I visited his store. He was the richest guy, and he would die. He left lands, money in the bank, money in the house, like probably 100 apartments, houses that he bought. The richest guy ever, all the store, and he has, I believe, a couple of 2 or 3 daughters, and then Marito. I think Marito was the one, and I remember Marito because he went to study medicine with me. And this amazing amount of money and lands and everything this guy has in less than 5 years was destroyed after probably 50 years because the kids didn't know nothing. He didn't teach his kids, his son, nothing about the business. And the same happened, my brother-in-law says, with all the big rich guy who send the kids to study, or never allow them to learn the whole thing, the whole, you know, skill, the store, the land, everything that is needed, or send them to study. Like now happen with many fathers. Many fathers send their kids to study law because come back to us, or go back to study this that I need to my, and all the fortune of this big father was destroyed on this son who were like that nothing. They were not a good doctors or good lawyers. They never, some of them like Marito never finished medical school. They become homeless somehow in Santo Domingo. They divided the fortune within the girls, and the girls did whatever happened to them, we don't know. But it means this fortune of a father just disappeared, destroyed, and things like that, one by one. And now I remember why he was so key on his son and his uh, daughter. They take good care of them, and you can see that all of them went to university, but one by one they come back to South. Most of us we stay in Santo Domingo. Then, like me, I just went to Santo Domingo. I moved, but he was teaching them, and then he sent them to the store to learn to help my sister with everything, with the business itself. And now that all of them are grown up except one, all of them came back because they knew San Juan, they knew the city, they knew everything. So all of a sudden he has, my sister have his family with their own career, but taking advantage of that opportunity, and being really the heritage of the heirs of whatever is going to happen with the family. And I learned that from him, how difficult it is to have a son, son, children, and then all of a sudden, if you don't teach them the whole business, it will disappear somehow. Like the biggest landowner of San Juan, whose son like destroyed the fortune in less than 15 years. That you know was really something to cry. When you see this guy have the so much power, so much money, so much lands, and all of a sudden sold or disappear, and you see this young guy doing deals and um, selling everything and going to Europe and doing this, and against the women's that they have, all kinds of burden, and doing everything's possible, that because you have money, you know the value. If you inherit the money, like the Lewis 15 and 16, it's very difficult. And then there is the David data chapter of live as if your father were dead. Like always, have your own expectation. Group, follow your father's rules, values, principles, teaching and lessons, but also go try to do something about it. The same happened with Freud, Sigmund Freud, and Jung. Freud was the Aryan German guy, different than all the students that Freud had in Germany, because he was a Jew, and Jung was the only German real, and he wanted him. And he was baptizing of his son. He's gonna be the heirs of the psychoanalytic movement. And June say, no, 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 I'm not gonna be no son. I'm gonna be my own father. And he became his analytic psychology, and became, himself a name by himself. And most of the psychoanalysts of the world also became, the majority of the school of thoughts, did the same in philosophy. Mars, Angel, except Mars and Angel were together, and most of the philosophers, they live out of Marx, but they do something different, like trying to be different as a father, because it's avoid stepping into a great man's shoes and try to make your own live a life better, or take the principle. It doesn't have to have the fortune, but the principle of my father to the next level is very hard to do. You can see this in the rich guy now, that you can see them like the Trumps of the moment, how you see those kids that are being raised by the father, and he allowed them to have the same opportunity or better opportunity and things like that. The richest guy who now have the trust, family trust for the kids, where your life it's going through like healthcare, educations, the better school, the better challenge. If you have a brains, they will give you opportunity so that you can really make it and allow you to make it. Also, they have mentors, coach, therapists behind you so that you can really tutor so that you can make it. You are interns in their companies, factories, and things like that, so that the sons can really be different than Louis 15 and Louis 16. That just didn't amass to nothing and destroy the kingdom. Because who's gonna take care of the kingdom? Jesus Christ is the great son. Is the great son who take care of the kingdom, announced it, and brought it to us and sacrificed for everybody. But always he recognized the father, and is being the greatest sons all over the place. You know, hoping that all of us can have our sons to be like Jesus Christ, to veneer and love and adore, and took the kingdom to the next level. Who will take the kingdom to the next level? Will your son take the kingdom to the next level? How can you do that? That's the questions of me, Steve. I don't know if Gregory has a son, but in the case of Victor, will the son take the kingdom to the next level? And what are we doing for that to happen? You know, because if you have in competition with your son, or will you allow him to have a better terrains, a better lines, a better kingdom through principal educations and taking the son to the next level is also the responsibility of a father. And maybe the son will rescue us when we are in our last moment or youth or old age and things like that. Who knows?
You know something? In regards to this is something near and dear to me, obviously, and I'm sure to the people you mentioned too. One of the most powerful things that I ever read, I was reading Joel Osteen many years ago, and he talked about how one of the things that he did to empower his son was day, right? Which is the obvious and easy thing, right? Look, this store's going to be yours.
Wait,
This
you were frozen. I don't know what is it. What he you broke.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
So Joel Osteen was saying that one of the things that he did to empower his child was, aside from the normal things like, look, this kingdom can be yours. Look at all this. This is yours, right? That's the easy part because it's evident and you could see it. But he said that he would just like lock him in the places like with the simple things, right? Let him sit in his chair that no one else could sit in, right? Let him sit in his office, let him play his video games and his things in his office. Let him go into daddy's closet and wear all of daddy's perfumes and colognes, and just let him kick the tire. And when he got older, here, take the brand new car out for a spin. Let him walk in his shoes, no matter how big they were. And that comes with this pain and with his tribulations, because sometimes they crash your brand new, Lamborghini. Sometimes they crash but that's all part of letting them walk in your shoes. It's not just like, because they don't have the capacity at that age. Like, imagine talking to a 12-year-old and being like, hey, you're going to be the owner of this major corporation one day. Come with me to the office and sit here. And, you're watching all these, it's overwhelming. It's big. And, and when all you're thinking about is what your next video game match is going to be with your friend online, like, you don't care about no corporation, right? So it's more than just like teaching them the business, is letting them live as you do in your life and letting them see the good and the bad and the ugly. Um, and then one day, once you've planted all those seeds, one day you get to basically say, so what do you like and what don't you like about it, right? And you get to kind of see where they are and you develop them little by little. You don't just like die and one day go, here, it's all yours. You knew all along this was going to be yours one day, right? Like that doesn't work.
No, that is true. And also, we buy rich people buy educations. You're not gonna go to Washington High. You're gonna go to Harvard. You're gonna learn the languages of, something that, when you go to different to this school, it's very difficult to compete, because it's not that it's the father of, it's the son of, but it's that this guy has a car, has an apartment, has money, unlimited money, and he also have knowledge. Or you say, oh, the rich is not as intelligent, it's the poor. No, 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 no. The rich is really intelligent, have money, have power, and they have the education. Where the sources of the education happen. If, oh, I'm gonna study Nietzsche, oh, that guy went to the best Nietzsche philosopher in Germany to study German and to study this guy, while you study just reading this book. Because also a way of the father making her sons to be biggest than him and have the knowledge is like send him to Harvard, the Harvards of the world, Cambridge or whatever it is, because now you can access, starting with the highest, the elementary education, middle education, wherever you have. That's the best way just to do it, to empower your son and give him everything he has with, education. And then, going within the trust also, it's like, giving all the resources and challenging him through his process, and giving him also opportunity to grow and things like that. Like being intelligent in terms of what you're gonna do with your son, what you're gonna do with your son really, and how can he take it really to the next level. And sometimes, greatest we see greatest sons all the time taking their business, whatever it is. Sometimes it's principle. It's not necessarily fortune. It have to be principles and values that you see. Wow, your father was like this, and now I see you, son, that you are like, you have the same views, principle, and taking his his heart, his ideas of to the world, whatever it is, to the community, to the family. A good son always is needed. It's important, and it have to be raised by the love of life of Jesus, the love of love, the truth. And it's not an easy task, the task of raising a good son. But we have the playbook of how to do it.
One of the most important things that I did for my son, believe it or not, is actually one of like the things that I got really criticized for. Um, when when Andres was about school ready, my late wife and I were looking for schooling options for him. And of course, we were both doing really well. I was a CFO, I was an established CFO. She was a social worker. We had, we had more than enough means to send him to a good private school. And I chose to send him to my elementary school, the tuition-free private school in Harlem. And my wife was really taken back by that because she's just like, that's a school for kids with low income. You're taking a seat away from someone who really needs that. And I'm like, no, I'm sending my child to go to the school to see the world the way I saw it, right? Because I don't want to raise a little spoiled brat in the suburb who thinks that the world is just green and that he's just going to sit there one day and inherit what I have with no hard work. I want him to see, that, the needs of people in the world. And I want him to build that humanity. And my son would come home sometimes, he'd be really upset. And I'd be like, what's wrong? He'd be like, well, tomorrow is pajama day and I don't want to go. And I'm like, why? He goes, because my best friend says he doesn't have any pajamas, and the other one says he doesn't have pajamas either. And they're really sad and they're not going to come to school either because they don't have pajamas. And he goes, and I go, wow, why does that bother you? He goes, because it makes me sad that they don't have it. Like, why don't they have pajamas? And I go, okay, you know what we could do? He goes, can we buy them pajamas? And I was just like, yeah, sure. And so, we had a lot of incidents where we would, buy the pajamas, oh, we have, the teacher says that we were going to go to the field trip, but we didn't have a bus. And I go, tell your teacher to contact me, and I'd buy the bus, right? And, and my son, Greg can attest to this. My son, if we are in a car and I take him to go buy a bottle of Gatorade at the gas station, my son will say, "Daddy, thank you so much for bringing me to buy a drink." I mean, he never, ever, ever has a moment of lack of gratefulness, and everyone knows this. Everyone sees it. When he goes now to his little fancy private school, because he does go to one now. It's kind of like the first thing that I get is, wow, your son started a trend where all the kids are praying in the cafeteria now, right? And he's just like so filled with gratefulness. And I really do think that he, at a very early age, he got to see how others live and how he lived. And he knew that it was different. And he built that humanity and that love and that care for people who don't have things. I mean, it also doesn't hurt that he's growing up in a church that that helps him build that, grow in that humanity, right? But that's like the best decision that I've probably ever made in my life.
Yeah, most rich people won't do that. They won't take the kid to Harlem if they have the capacity to bring him to a different to Philstone, for example.
Hmm.
You have to reduce risk at all cost, because the same way he's becoming sensitive is because of you, your value, the church, things like that. He can be trapped
Sure.
on the area of, and then have accidents and have issues and big fight. And it depends also when was the time too that he went to the Harlem School or whatever. So by reducing the risk of he's gonna really make it, you take him to the Firestone School, where you got $50,000, and you guarantee have a really high education, gonna be with people that has his value, money value, and you reduce the risk for him to make it faster in life with the risk of you know, assassination, being called on whatever, and drugs dealing and things like that. Because that one most likely you're gonna find in most of our schools. You go to the Bronx, Harlem, that doesn't have a budget. It's not the same if you go to Riverside Drive. So rich father, fortune father will give the highest education ever. Will invest in that whenever they have the chance, because if to have to reduce the risk of losing your son, the scandal of the richest guy buying places in Harvard like crazy. So if the guy doesn't have it, if he doesn't have intelligence, he doesn't have the score. Well, I'm gonna steal and deceive people and things like that to the extreme. That's like the extreme of the father. They try to give the best to the son so that you diminish the risk of losing him to the high to the inferno, to the devil, because it's very easy in places that you can lose your son to the inferno, that. And that's what it mean, have guards and have security and have the best teacher ever. You're not gonna find any Obamas or Donald Trumps into the Harlem kind of, or Washington Heights of the world. And you say, "Oh wow, why?" No, because you have to reduce the risk of losing your son to any shit thing that was not expected, and now it's too risky. It's too risky to send him to this place. He can develop compassion and love in, I don't know, like going to, as to philanthropy, and then like you see this guy rich, like giving food to the poor and things like that, but also have a guard, safeguard, a police inside behind checking him out. Um, you see, and also, some father is give every as old as he become, give to your son the riches and opportunity that he needs to. Because sometimes it's, oh no, because I made it hard, so he have to make it hard. He has to earn his money. He has to, no, no, no. If you have it, give it to him. And if he's in his 20s, he's in his 30s, and you can buy whatever you have to buy, that's why you have money. That's why you're rich. And in the last chapter, we saw that. Despite the free launches, because it's like money's power. The most generous you are, the most power you have, and the most opportunity in life you have also too. So that's also with the son. What can we do to our son that when we have the resources to give them? Some fathers say, "Oh no, I'm not gonna give it to him because," and then you have a son that's gonna be resentful, is gonna have a hard life, and see my father. When he got the opportunity, he couldn't give me, and living and go to the heaven of the best life and highest life. It's a privilege kind of, and the more privileged you are, the more opportunities you have to help people. It's like, oh, I don't want to be the privilege. Yeah, you have to be the privilege, because then whatever desire is in your heart, you can give it to the whole world. um, so the kingdom is there for your son to enjoy it, and not with hope, yes, with hope and faith, but also with investments into this mind and mentality and this heart on the best resources that is available to you at the specific moment. Also, I said that about San Juan, but also these people, some of them now become some of the best doctors and lawyers because they have the opportunity to go to the places. I know a doctor. He's not from the south, but he was sent to Paris. Some of my friends who went to Paris and went to Germany, Spain, also was because father got money, and they, could send the father to the best university abroad opportunity, and then when they come back, they become teachers and owners and faculty, and whatever best centers of medicine and things like that. That's also part of the whole thing. But anyway, Rosana, you want to have the last word?
I think you said it, Dr. Piña. We have to be careful of how we guide our kids them and try to lead them into the right steps. Um, they can make their own judgment as they go, their own decisions, but we have to give them a right model that they can follow.
Excellent. So with that, I'm done for today. Thank you guys. And we finished our savers today. Although the saver was very short, 3 minutes and so. The wellness, the discussions, the book, the law, and it's part of what we do on a everyday basis. Right. So guys, thank you very much. And I'm happy that everybody's been here. And I see you tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Adios.
Have a great day, everybody.
Bye
Bye bye.
bye.
Have a
Bye.
Bye bye.
day.
Oh, Lawrence
Bye.
is there. Oh, Lawrence. We'll talk tomorrow about Lawrence.